Automation has become a very essential part of our lives. A lot of times we find ourselves doing some repetitive tasks that take up much of our time. Now, think about the time you spend sending emails or sorting records or trying to organize your files in a given way. These are routine activities that are quite predictable, and a lot of times computers can handle this task even more efficiently than we can. So in this video, we're going to learn about automation in Python by learning how we can use Python to organize or sort our files and perform bulk renaming of files. So we're going to start by learning how we can use Python to perform this task. And I'm going to start by launching my Visual Studio Code. So this is my project folder. And inside of this project folder, I have two folders. I have the files folders and I have the source folder. This source folder contains different files of different formats. I have MP4 files here. I have an Excel file, I have a PDF file, and I have a JPEG file. And for the files folder, I have mainly JPEG images inside of this files folder. So we're going to start by writing a simple Python script that is going to organize and sort the files inside this source folder. So I'm going to start by creating a new script. So I can call this file manager.py, and I'm going to start by importing the OS module. So I'm going to have import OS. Then next, I'm going to import the shorttail module. So I have import shorttail module. Having done this import, I'm going to identify the source folder. So I'm going to have source is equal to, then I'll write the name of the folder, which is source. Then next, I'm going to have the destination folder. So here I have destination, and for the destination folder, I'm going to give it a name, destination. Then the next thing I'm going to do is that I want to look through the files in the source folder. And I'm going to do this by writing for file in os.list_dir. Inside here, I'm going to put the source folder, which is source. Then the next thing I'm going to do is that I want to fetch those files that are actually files, not folders. So I'm only interested in real files and not folders. So I'm going to have if os.path.is file. Then here I'm going to put the path. So I'm going to have os.path.join. Here I'm going to put the source and I'm going to put the file. So this is going to identify whether a given file is actually a real file. Then I'm going to have my colon here. So I'm going to have est, standing for extension, is equal to file.split. So I'm going to perform a split and then use a dot delimiter. And now I'm going to fetch the last item after the split. So I'm going to use -1. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to get the path for the extension folder. That is the folder that is going to house all the files of a given extension. So I'm going to have extension folder is equal to os.path.join. So here I'm going to have destination and I'm going to have the extension. So what this is going to do is that I want to create a folder inside of the destination folder. That is essentially what I'm trying to do. And the name of that folder is going to be the name of the extension. So now I'm going to create the folder. So I'm going to have os.makeDirs. Here I'm going to have the extension folder. And the next thing I'm going to put here is check whether the folder is in existence. If it is not in existence, create one. So I'm going to have exists OK is equal to true. The next thing I'm going to do is to move the file into the folder, and I'm going to be using the shortl for this. So I'm going to have shortl dot move. So here I'm going to put the source, and for the source I'm going to have os.path.join. Here I'm going to have the source, and here I'm going to have file. Then I'm going to have the destination, and for the destination I'm going to have os.path.join. Then here I'm going to have the extension folder, and I'm going to have file. Then having done this, the next thing I'm going to do, this is going to iterate for all the files that are contained inside of the source folder, and when the operation is complete, I want to print successful on the terminal. So here I'm going to write print successful. So let's go ahead and run the program. If you run the program, you can see that we now have a new folder, which is destination. And if I open this folder, you can see that we have folders corresponding to the extension names. We have the JPG, we have the MP4, PDF, and XLS. So if I expand this, you can see we only have one image file inside of the JPEG or JPG. And for the MP4, we'll have 4 files. And for the PDF, we'll have 1. And for the XLS, we'll have only 1 file there. So this is how you can easily sort or organize your files based on their file extensions. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to see how we can perform bulk renaming of files using Python. And for this, I'm going to start by importing the OS module. So I have import OS. Then the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to indicate the source. So I'm going to have source is equal to, and for the source folder, I'm going to be using files for my source folder. So I'm targeting the files inside of this files folder. Then the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to have a prefix, because the essence of this is that if you look at the files contained here, you can see that the names are not uniform. So the essence of this script is that we want to have files like file 1, file 2, file 3, and file 4. This is what we want to achieve. So we're going to identify our prefix or use a given prefix. So here I'm going to have my prefix is equal to, and then I'm going to write file and put underscore. So what I want to have is file underscore 1, file underscore 2 as file names. The next thing I'm going to do is to have a list of all the real files inside of the folder, and I'm going to be using list comprehension for this. So I'm going to have files is equal to, then I'll put a square bracket. I'll have file for file in. I'm going to have os dot list dir, and for this I'm going to put source as my argument, but we'll not stop at this. We'll have to put a clause because we're only interested in real files. So I'm going to have an if clause here, and I'll have os.path.is_file. Then we have os.path.join. So here we're going to have our source, and afterwards we're going to have our file. So this is going to give us the list of the real files inside of the folder. So I'm going to have count, and I'm going to initialize it at 1. So the next thing we're going to do now is that we're going to look through the files in the folder and then rename them. So here we have for file in files, and here we're going to start by identifying the file extension. So I'm going to have file extension is equal to, this is going to be file.split, then we use the dot delimiter and then get the last item, which is -1. Then the next thing we're going to do is to identify a new name, and for the new name we're going to have new name is equal to, and we're going to be using an F string for this. So here we'll have our first placeholder, and this placeholder is going to hold prefix. Then after the placeholder, we want to have the count. So for this second placeholder, we're going to have count. Then after the count, we're going to put a dot, and we'll have another placeholder, and this one is going to hold the file extension. So we'll have file extension. Then next, we're going to identify the old path. So for the old path, we have old path is equal to, we have os.path.join. For this, we're going to have the source and we'll have the file. Then we'll get the new path. So this is new path is equal to os.path.join. Here we have our source, and for the new path, we're going to be using the new name. So we'll have our new name here. So the next thing we're going to do is to rename the file. So we're going to have os.rename. So we're going to put the source, and for the source, we're using the old path, and we'll now put the new path. Then afterwards, we're going to increment the count. So we'll have count plus equal to 1. So this for loop is going to iterate through all the files in the directory and rename them. So after the renaming operation, we want to display a message on the terminal. So for this, we're going to write print files successfully renamed. So let's go ahead and run the program and see whether it is going to rename the files. So if I run this program, you can see files successfully renamed. So if you look at the files folder, you can see that the names have been renamed. So basically, this is how you can use Python to sort or organize your files or perform bulk renaming of files in Python.